I did the analysis of the Kent State shooting, which took place on May 4th, 1970. The Ohio National Guard marched onto Kent State's campus. Students were protesting the Vietnam War and President Nixon at that time, and the National Guard was there to keep the peace. And after countless violent acts coming from the protesters, the National Guard decided to start shooting for reasons that are still unclear today. 4 students died, 2 who were part of the protest and 2 who were not. Many more were injured, but these anti-war protesters spread their message using violence, including fights with the police, throwing rocks, destroying businesses, and the same protesters even burned down their own ROTC building at Kent State. And in that specific incident, when the fire department showed up to put out the fire, the same protesters cut the cords for the hose, and so the fire department could not put out the fire, and the building was destroyed. There were rumors of bomb threats, and the police were worried. While these protesters proclaimed peace, ironically, they were spreading their own war. And this story created a divisive, two-sided narrative pitting Americans against each other. There was confusion, remorse, and pain felt on both sides that caused many more politically charged events after this one. In certain people's eyes, the Kent State victims were martyrs, but in others, they were seen as violent vigilantes, even terrorists who burnt down their own school building. The Kent State shooting on May 4th, 1970 was covered by many kinds of media outlets with various narratives from different authors. The New York Times remained as objective as possible. The story was simply told without sensationalizing. However, separate authors from the same media source did push their own versions of the story. Newsweek and Lifetime magazine also have their own versions of the story, and their versions appear to be a lot less objective and more like propaganda. These two companies did not hesitate to clearly state opinion as fact. Some media outlets portrayed the shooting as murder, and others framed it to look like pure self-defense. There were documented interviews after the event took place with the National Guard members, and no one could give a straight answer. Some of the Guard members said they began shooting because they were shot at themselves, and others said that they were just scared for their own lives. And the New York Times objectively told all of these facts, but no one was ever able to clearly tell why the shooting began. And after my research, I'm not sure anyone knows exactly why. That's the most frustrating part of all of this for me, because I would honestly not like to know what happened. I feel as if I did all this research looking for one answer, and after this journey, I discovered the answer doesn't exist. The Kent State shooting remains a mystery. But the media outlets covered it for the most part objectively. That's generally speaking. There are specific outlets, as I mentioned, those 2 magazines, that covered it that were very opinion heavy. But for the most part, it was covered objectively.